And important guest, Mr. Muhammad Alif Iman Asmal, the Associate of Economist from Monetary Policy Department, Bank Negara Malaysia. Please welcome.
Hi, thank you, Aisha. May I just check if you guys can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. I think I have the slides sent to you guys. But I can share my screen if that's fine. Or the oh yeah, okay, all right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much for to Base Initiative for extending the invite to have me deliver a presentation on the topic of governance on technological advancement and regulation. So, as an introduction, I'm Alif Iman. You can call me Alif. I'm an associate economist at the Monetary Policy Department, Bank Negara Malaysia. Several years ago, I was also in your shoes, doing my SPM and looking for scholarship. So I think BASE is a really good platform. I wish I had one when I was still going through my SPM days. But then I got the scholarship by Bank Negara Malaysia to pursue a degree in economics uh, in the UK. And now I'm serving my 3 years service with Bank Negara Malaysia, and currently my third year. Yeah. So today I will discuss a little bit on the topic of governance of technological advancement and regulation, specifically from the lenses of how policymakers, such as myself, in Bank Negara Malaysia, how do we balance innovation, trust, and economic resilience? Because as we know, technological change is accelerating across different sectors, and you can see around you AI, digital finance, data centers, and a lot of automation nowadays. And when you have this kind of developments, it does have a lot of like positive spillovers to the economy. However, they also introduce a lot of negative risk that probably would need supervision or oversight, especially if you're working, let's say, like me in the public sector. So you also have a role to play in terms of regulating this technological advancement. And one thing that we need to think about is it's not with whether technology should advance, but it's the idea that how can an institution like the government, for example, how can we make sure that uh, we can still acknowledge this technological advancement, but at the same time, how can we be smart about it? How can we govern it and make sure that we can contain the risk that comes with this advancement? So ultimately, what we want to achieve is that with good governance, especially with a good governance framework, we would enable innovation, but at the same time, we want to safeguard the people, the rakyat, but also we want to, if you learning economics, then you want to instill good public confidence in your people. So that's this whole idea of technological advancements and governance. We want to make sure that we're not behind, we're not lagging in terms of like our development, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we have a good governance process. So that's just as an introduction. So maybe to the next slide. Okay. So this is just a context setting. We want to understand that we want to understand why technology governance matters. So Malaysia, as a country, we aim to be a regional digital economy hub, and making governance is increasingly important. So Malaysia, as a whole, as a country, we are moving beyond just simply being a technology user or adopter, meaning that as a country, we want to be at the frontier of this technological advancement as well. Maksudnya, we're not just being one macam some countries are developing the technology and we are just like only using it, and we're not really innovating, but we want to be in the same bucket as other countries as well, meaning that we want to, strive and make innovations for the country. Yeah. So there are many initiatives, especially in recent times, that Malaysia has embarked. For example, through initiatives like your My Digital and your broader digital economy strategies, we aspire to become a more regional digital hub. So faster with this kind of development, faster technological adoption, it creates a lot of new policy questions. So as a policymaker, we want to make sure that when you have this kind of initiatives, these innovative ideas, we do not want to compromise consumer protection, cybersecurity, or even your data privacy. So we want to make sure that we have all of this in place, but at the same time, we are also thinking about the protection of the people. So these objectives are quite interconnected, and in the sense that if there's no good governance in place, the people, especially like us, we wouldn't have good confidence or trust that we're going to get protected, or how about the risk of a cybersecurity threat. So if there's no good governance in terms of your technology adoption, it is really difficult for us to also be part of this technological advancement, because we wouldn't, if there's a really good initiative, but if there's no good governance, even people are scared to take part in this kind of initiative. So that's why governance is a critical enabler, rather than just a constraint or innovation. So over regulation or under regulation is also not a thing that we want to achieve. We really need to have a really good framework. And to understand this, yeah, probably in the next slide. So this is giving a taste about technological advancement. So technology advancement is not just about innovation, but it's also becoming a more macroeconomic issue. And institutions like the central bank, like Bank Negara, and like, let's say, the government, is really important for these institutions to have a really good governance framework, because we know that with greater technological advancement is a significant growth driver and contributes to a lot of different channels. So with higher technology, you would have higher productivity. You can also see that you will get more higher value employment. So it's not just about a higher number of employment, but it's also about the quality of the employment itself. So when you have good technology, you can upskill people. You could have people going for training. You can actually have people moving from low skill jobs to more high skill jobs. So with technology, you can actually make your people, you can increase the human capital. So this is one of the good things about having technology. And you can see like your digital banking is a really good example. So back in the past, a lot of people rely on using cash. So you don't actually need to bring cash anymore. A lot of places, they accept e-wallets, digital payments. So all of these are quite integrated. And in fact, in the Southeast Asian region, in ASEAN, there are certain countries when you go travel, you don't actually need to bring cash anymore. There's also the usage of QR payments as well. So this is a good example of how technology is beneficial. But then again, all of these technology adoption, especially with AI, it can help to improve a lot of like service delivery and resource allocation. But when you have this technology advancement, you also have to make sure that your governance framework is also in line. We don't want it to be like your innovation is really fast paced, but the government is quite lacking when it comes to making sure there's a good, proper framework. So we want to make sure that in line with your technological advancement, we need to also have a really good governance framework. So the idea is that we want to make sure that we have a really good foundation. So I think in the next few slides, it highlights what are the several examples of foundations that the government has in place. Yeah, so here, Malaysia already has a lot of governance building blocks. And the challenge is not just about having these blocks, but it's about coordination. How can you coordinate when you already have a lot of this governance foundation, but how do you merge them together into one single framework? So yeah, fortunately for Malaysia, we didn't start from scratch. So even before the rise of AI, before the existence of ChatGPT, for example, Malaysia already has several governance laws as well as parliamentary acts. So a lot of these governance mechanism already exists. For example, you already have your Personal Data Protection Act, PDPA. You have several financial sector regulatory frameworks, and you also have your National Cybersecurity Strategy policies. So all of these frameworks, they address a very important dimension of technological governance. But the issue is when you have so many of these framework or you have so many of these laws, it's the challenge of making sure that they operate together rather than in isolation, meaning that you don't want to have like a one law but it's not complementing one another. We want to make sure that all of these laws and governance, they're working hand in hand together. So with the emergence of AI, for example, it cuts across a lot of your traditional regulatory boundaries. So AI, with the rise of AI, it's not just targeted for only one particular area. A lot of job scopes nowadays, even AI is involved. So AI is not just for those who are working, let's say, in more science or more manufacturing or more engineering job scopes. Even if you're working in finance, with the rise of AI, it can also be beneficial for people working in commercial banking as well as central banking as well. So with AI, it really cuts across a lot of different sectors and job scopes. Okay, so coordination is really important, and coordination is not just about having the government to play a role. Yes, government is a critical key player, but everyone needs to take part in this in taking part in making sure that there's a really good governance, especially tackling the risk coming from AI. So along that line, as I mentioned, when you have the rise of AI, there is a greater need for more enhanced governance framework, mainly because there's a lot of risk that comes along with the benefits of AI. For example, at the individual level, we can see that there could be a lot of like data privacy breaches. There could also be fraud. There could be financial scams. With AI, it affects people at a micro level, but on a macro level, in the bigger picture, for example, with the rise of AI, it can also lead to labor displacement, meaning that a lot of jobs that requires a lot of automation, AI can actually replace those people. So if you don't have a really good governance framework, then people who are low skill, with the increased usage of AI, these people might be jobless, they might be redundant, they might be unemployed. But with a good governance framework, you can actually make sure that these people can move from being low skilled. They can go through a lot of training programs, or maybe go through upskilling programs, and they can actually move from being low skilled to high skilled. And that would lead to less of a labor displacement, and making sure that these people develop themselves, and we can actually see an increase in human capital. So that's the idea. If you have a good governance framework, financial risk. So with AI, they can also lead to cyber security threats and also algorithm trading errors. So if you're working in the financial market as a trader, with AI, you can actually use it to help you make decisions on whether you want to trade. But with algorithm trading, it can also has a lot of errors as well. So these are some of the risks that can emerge from the rise of AI, and um, it's non-exhaustive, meaning that the list goes on and on. And what's important is actually for institutions like central banks, the government, is quite relevant to us in a way. From where I'm coming from, in the central bank, with AI, it can also have an impact on your credit assessments, on your risk management, and from a monetary policy point of view, it can also have some impact on it as well. Okay, for the next slide, so that's the several slides before we were talking about the risk, in addition to the benefits that comes along with AI. But now, moving forward, knowing this risks and benefits, and we already understand that a good governance is critical and needed. So how can we build this good governance framework? So there are several global frameworks that can serve as a benchmark. In the sense that in the past few years, even before AI was a big thing in Malaysia, other countries have already started talking about how can we make sure that with the rise of AI, it can benefit the people, but also we can contain the risk that comes with it. And several countries like the UNESCO, for example, they already listed out several principles on how we can make sure we have a really good governance. So international principles, they can help to shape national AI governance approaches. And one important milestone, as I mentioned, what UNESCO proposed back in 2021, uh, as you can see here on the circle on the left-hand side, they listed out 10 different AI principles. And these discussions, they help to establish widely the principles. So you have your transparency, accountability, fairness, and human oversight. So these are some of the principles that make up the global standards in terms of building a good governance framework. And many countries have since adapted to these principles. Maybe they alter a little bit, they maybe amended a little bit to fit the local domestic context. And for Malaysia, I think it was back in 2022, we actually had our own AI principles, but taking inspiration from the UNESCO 10 AI principles. So if you are to compare between the two circles, there are things that overlap. So Malaysia has similarly, we have aligned with global standards. So this alignment is very important because with the AI systems, your data flows, your digital services, they often operate across borders. So what does it mean? So with AI, it's not just limited to only Malaysia. There are things, for example, take the example of your QR payments. So when you have, like, say, your QR payments, if you go travel, you can also use your QR payment in Indonesia or in fact in Thailand. So those are the examples. Another example, it could be like your online shopping. So those are examples that is very tangible, is very observable. You can see that it's happening in daily life, and it's not just limited to only Malaysia. It involves other people in other countries as well. So this issue of emergence of AI is not just for the local context, not just for the local economy, but it's also cuts across different countries, different economies. So it's a worldwide, a global issue. But as a starting point, once you already have your UNESCO 10 AI principles, Malaysia has already adopted these principles in a sense that what we can learn here is that learning from international best practices, it helps us to reduce policy uncertainty and strengthen credibility. So what it means that once another country or maybe on the global scale, they have already adopted these principles, this framework way before Malaysia. And as a starting point, we have already adopted this as a benchmark. So it gives us some certainty. It provides us some assurance that moving forward, whatever Malaysia is deciding when building our governance framework is something that's credible because we have already looked into what the global standard is. Right? So in the next slide, we can see that Malaysia has made further efforts in institutionalizing AI governance. Malaysia has taken more serious steps in making sure that AI is something more, they've taken more serious steps in making sure there's a good governance. And recently in 2024, in the end of 2024, the government has launched this, the Ministry of Digital has launched this National AI Office, and where this task force or this special office has outlined 7 different deliverables by 2025. So through this initiative, the government has already outlined what they want to achieve last year. In fact, some of this, I think there've been some delays, so we can actually some of these initiatives are still happening. But one of the things that's really important and caught my attention is probably number one, where they say that they want to establish a AI technology action plan for the year 2026 to 2030. And number two is on the AI adoption regulatory framework. So this is your local, your national level governance and regulations. So it's going to serve as a benchmark, as a reference for companies in Malaysia as well. So if they are to, let's say, a company wants to adopt AI, and they have to abide by the laws and regulation that is outlined by the government. So without this local, national level framework, it's really difficult for companies or even for users like us to, to allow to take place or to be involved with AI adoption. So once you have this good governance in place, it can serve as a reference for companies and firms. So you can see that the government has taken a lot of initiatives and we're becoming more serious about AI. And yeah, this is some of the examples that I found out about the government in terms of the governance framework. But it's a really short presentation, and I think in the last slide, slide 8, these are just some of the key takeaways from this whole presentation. So Malaysia, to become a leading digital economy, we must not only innovate. So we must innovate, but not just innovation alone is not it's not I'm not saying it's not important, but it can't be the only important thing. We have to also be smart about it. How can we govern smart when you have a fast-paced innovation? So innovation is a necessity, it's not a choice. And with technological advancement, this is just going to reshape our economy, our structural reforms. They're going to play a big role in defining how Malaysia is going to move forward in the next few years. So technological advancement is inevitable, meaning that it's going to reshape our economy, our labor market is going to be impacted. In fact, our financial system is going to be impacted as well. And public confidence will be a key determination of a successful adoption, meaning that people will have to embrace AI and digital services, but they can only embrace these changes only if there is a trust in the system. So if there's no good governance, you can't really instill good trust in the people, and people wouldn't want to take part in embarking or embracing this technological advancement. So transparency, accountability, and responsible governance is a really important aspect that we need to take into consideration. And regulation, especially with the AI adoption framework, it shouldn't be seen as an obstacle. Some people think that once you have regulation, that's the end of it. Things are going to be really difficult. There's not going to be room for flexibility. People find it very difficult to embrace AI or probably to embrace technological advancement. But actually, regulation, it shouldn't be it shouldn't be seen as an obstacle. It should be an important aspect in terms of creating certainty, especially when it comes to encouraging responsible experimentation, and also to prevent any potential systemic risk coming from the rise of technological advancement. So the ultimate goal for the government and for us is to create an adaptive governance framework, meaning that how can we develop a framework that is evolutionary in nature, meaning that how can we create a framework that can evolve with the rise of technology and not just lagging behind it. So meaning that we're not just going to allow technology to outpace our governance. We need to make sure that governance is in line with our technological advancement. So that's pretty much wraps up this whole presentation. It's really surface level. The conversation about technological advancement and governance is a really, I would say, a really big topic. But I think let's leave it there for food for thought. And if there's any questions, or maybe if anyone has any comments that they want to raise, I pretty much welcome any comments or feedback. Or in fact, if you have any questions, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so if anyone has any questions, can raise your hand or maybe ask your question through the chat box. Anyone? Questions? Okay, then if there's no one, if no one has any question, may I ask a question then, Mr.
Yeah,
Alif?
yeah,
Okay.
sure.
May I ask, what is bank's role in this discussion?
The bank role. Definitely from a financial sector point of view. So, as I mentioned earlier about the digital payments, so in the central bank, we have a particular specific department that looks into payment systems, and we have two actually. One that looks into the policy side of payments, and another department looks into the supervision of digital payments. So from our point of view, it's not just on payments, but also how can we embrace AI. So we have to make sure there's a good policy and also a good institution framework for commercial banks to adopt. So the central bank would create policies and also a framework in embracing digital payments, and we have to circulate this regulation to our affiliates. So our commercial banks, they have to abide by the laws and regulation that is set by the central bank. And we have several departments in the economic sector that look into the economic spillovers of AI and also technological advancement. For me, my department looks into the impact on monetary policy. Particularly, I look into the impact of AI on productivity. So, how would our productivity, how productive would our people be with the increase in technology? Yeah, so that's something that we look in as a central bank. So we look into the policy side of things. We look into the research side of things, but we also look into the supervision side of things. So the central bank, we also work as a economic advisor to the government, to the ministry. So if they need any second opinions when it comes to the impact of AI, they will also get opinion from the central bank. So Bank Negara is very involved when it comes to technology advancement, but we look into it from the perspective of economic spillovers and also from the financial side of things. So yeah, that's pretty much how we are involved in.
Wow, very interesting. I can see that bank plays in many different roles, which is really useful and interesting. Thank you very much for answering the question. So, thank you so much, Mr. Alif Iman, for that very
Yeah,
insightful deep dive.
I think sorry Aisha, I think there's two participants that have questions or something. I can see Iman and
Oh,
Joel.
really? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
Did they raise their hands?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, sorry to interrupt, but I have a quick question.
Yep, sure.
It doesn't really have much relation to the economic context of things, but I'd like to ask that in the context of our country or locally, Are there currently any policies that monitor the plagiarism that is oftentimes synonymous with use of AI, especially in the context of the use of arts or when they accidentally plagiarize or discredit studies when giving information and such? Is my
Mm,
question clear?
yeah, it is quite clear. I'm I think I might give you a very generic answer. I don't really have the specific insights if the government is taking any specific steps. But I think that there are. You probably would want to look into the national adoption. I think okay, maybe it's not just AI, but there probably is some policies that look into it, the framework. But long story short, I think there is, but I can't really give you a specific answer to that. I don't really have the insights to that. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah. But on plagiarism, I think there is. If you're referring to, for example, macam if you okay, if you go to universities and then if you let's say you write a dissertation, the university they have their own governance framework when it comes to plagiarism. So it's something that is very well spelled out in the education side of things. Beyond that, I'm not entirely familiar, but it's something that universities take very seriously when it comes to plagiarism. In fact, I think if you go to universities, the first few weeks of the year, they always give you these materials of courses that you have to go through and complete about the the importance of plagiarism and what's the consequences if you plagiarize work. So they really take it very seriously. Even when I was in the UK, if I remember when I was a university student, if you plagiarize as a Malaysian student studying abroad, if you plagiarize and if you kantoi, the university not only can expel you from the university, but your visa can also be retracted and you may be blacklisted from entering the UK for like 10 years or something. So it's very, very important. And in fact, if I remember, there were cases of Malaysians that accidentally plagiarize. I wouldn't say they memang intentionally plagiarize, but unintentionally plagiarize, and the university caught them and they were actually sent back to Malaysia lah. They didn't finish their studies. I think we take things quite seriously in Malaysia as well lah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Joel?
I just wanted to ask, has AI already made it into Big Negara? And if it has, how has it helped progress Big Negara? And what are the harms of using AI? That's all.
Yeah. In Bank Negara, Bank Negara is quite conservative. We take a very cautious step in terms of like technology, but it doesn't mean that as an institution we neglect AI or we don't want to adopt any AI. We in fact embrace AI as well in our workplace. For example, ChatGPT is not something that we can use at work, but we subscribe to the enterprise Microsoft Copilot AI. So in our work, in our publications, we can actually use Copilot to help us in our workplace, and that is from the point of as a staff. So, and in fact, in Bank Negara, we all of the cafeteria, we don't actually use cash. We're quite cashless. So we really embrace the idea of a digital payment environment, and that's from the point of view of a staff. But in terms of like if you're referring to our role as a central bank, we look into the impact of AI to the economy. For example, last 2 years, in fact like it might be last year, when companies like Google, Tesla, they were setting up places like data centers in Malaysia. We actually look into it quite deeply, and we want to understand that would this have an implication on the economy. And those insights, we actually provided those insights and we share them with people in our publications, in our statements, our press release, in our annual reports. Even I think management has mentioned about the impact of AI multiple times in interviews, and we actually shared the insights with the ministry as well. So yeah, that's how involved Bank Negara is lah. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay, all right. I don't see any more questions. Maybe I pass the floor back to Aisha.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Ali, for answering all those questions really brilliantly. Well, thank you. Now, let's carry on with the next part of our segment, which is the preliminary round briefing, which will be done by Akil Mukis. Please welcome.
Okay, hi everyone. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we can.
All right, nice. So, hello everyone. My name is Akil. I'm from BASE. And today, my session will be about the briefing for you guys' preliminary round. So, comprised of two main things. It will be task briefing and also a short introduction on the anatomy of your case study portfolio. Most of these things will actually already been inside of your participant guidelines. So if you want to open that up while we go through the slides here, is a good idea also. So next. So this is the topic or theme for our case study competition preliminary round, which, as we have heard from Mr. Alif's amazing session just now, is technological advancement, regulation, and governance. So you guys will be tackling on this issue while working on your case study portfolio. So next. We want to give a little bit of a problem statement, but just to remind everyone that this case study competition is not necessarily similar to other case competitions that you might have seen from, for example, like Harvard Business School or LSE, where you guys would pitch a business model or act like a management consultant to a company. It's more about you guys delving into the policies and basically issue analysis on the challenge that we provide. So the problem statement goes, as a lot of countries in the world, we're facing a lot of interconnected challenges in the 21st century now. A lot of things like climate change, quality education access, healthcare disparities, and etc. But at the same time, governments and industries are also heavily investing into new technologies, new amazing emerging technologies with the help of spending. And these sort of things might sort of go hand in hand, but also have a side effect. So, for example, according to the United Nations, more than 700 million people worldwide continue to live in extreme poverty, while the World Bank estimates that approximately 2.6 billion people remain without reliable internet access. So, for our problem statement, it basically says that as we have a lot of different challenges that are involved today, we have also a lot of solutions like the technologies. And we want to see how these two things connect to each other, if there is some benefits that outweigh the challenges that are faced. So next slide. So these are the examples of things that you can say about this topic. For example, AI that can improve early detection of diseases and support medical professionals. Smart agriculture that can optimize water usage and crop production. A lot of these things I think you guys already know about if you read a lot of news currently. However, like I said, despite these benefits, a lot of these technological advancements have also generated a lot of concerns. So the IMF estimates that around 40% of jobs globally may be affected by AI and automation in some form. So either they lose it or they are swapped to a different sort of job. And meanwhile, studies have shown that access to to digital infrastructure remains uneven between urban and rural communities. This is also one of an important point of your case study later. So next. We have provided a few guiding questions for you guys to sort of think about while you design your case study. There are 7 here, but a lot of them delve into different aspects. So, for example, what are the most significant benefits of emerging technologies? What role should regulation and governance play? Does technological advancement reduce or worsen inequality? And so on and so forth. Next slide. Okay. So there are a few different type of case study questions, which you may or may not have known. There are 2 main types, but each of the 2 have slightly different versions of each other. So we have breadth versus depth, and also discursive versus argumentative. So for the first segment, which is on the left, the breadth versus depth. Breadth is, keluasan, width. So it covers a wide floor. So for example, discuss the major opportunities and challenges Malaysia may face in implementing AI nationwide. So in your case study, you would want to identify those different opportunities and challenges. So the more, the better. And that's why it's a breadth kind of question. The opposite of that is depth. So for the depth type of questions, they usually start with the word to what extent. So to what extent has public awareness and been effective for environmental protection? So in a depth kind of question, you would want to analyze how deeply does it affect? So very severely, slightly, or maybe not at all, depending on how you did your analysis. And that's how you would tackle a depth kind of question. The third type of case study question is called a discursive question. So discursive, for you guys that don't know the word, it basically means from topic to topic with no specific order. So this focuses on the analysis and correlations, but without taking sides. So discursive and argumentative are sort of what you would call debate style questions, but discursive doesn't favor a side. So you would identify both points from both sides, supporting and against, but it will be a balanced kind of discussion. You don't take a side at the end of your case study. However, for argumentative, it is the opposite. You guys would need to take a clear position. So for example, here we have debate harms and the benefits of a certain case. And you would need to convince the reader of your case study of your position that you have taken. And inside your argument also, you would need to take down the counter arguments that may have come while supporting your position. Yeah. Next. All right. For the next segment of our preliminary round briefing, we're going to have a short session on the anatomy of a case study portfolio. But before we move on, can I just get a raise of hands? How many people have read the participant guidelines and saw the word case study portfolio? 1, 2, 3. Okay, we see a few hands. All right. Thank you guys for raising your hand. Thank you for also reading the participant guidelines. I think if you guys haven't yet, please do read the guidelines, and there's a lot of information there that may be not covered in this workshop. So it's about the case study portfolio. Basically, this is your document that you guys will prepare for this case study competition. In the next slide, we'll see on how it is structured. So your case study portfolio is a 7-page document. It's basically a slide deck, but the 7 pages does not include the cover page and also the appendix page. The appendix page will be explained later, but it's basically a references page. So let's look at the cover page. The cover page is uncounted, and it will need to comprise of a title, the topic of the case study, which you guys will get, the case study question, which you guys will also get, and the list of content. So the list of content, you guys can put these yellow text that we have displayed here. You guys can also screenshot these slides for your later reference. Page 1 is also introduction. Introduction is basically you want to talk about your topic. So explain a little bit about your topic, what the current status quo is, State any optional choices if applicable. So this is sort of a hint to your preliminary round task. And you need to define specific problems. So if you have a topic, let's say in our preliminary round topic, which is the technological advancements, regulation, and governance. So you would need to define what is technological advancement specifically. And of course, you need to have a source reference to that, which you would need to put in your appendix 2, and state your team stance if also applicable. So you do all that here in the introduction first page. And then for the second page is methodology and analysis. So methodology and analysis, for this page, you need to explain how you analyze the problem and present current data. So that's actually a few different ways of case study methodology and case study analysis. At the end of this workshop, we're going to have a sample case study walkthrough. So do pay attention to that and try to see if you have some ideas on the type of methodology and analysis. But it's basically how you explain your research. Number 3 is stakeholder analysis. So just talking about the people who are affected and who holds power in the cases. Is it governments? Is it schools? Is it policymakers, etc.? Page 4 is about opportunities, which is the opposite to page 5, which is about the risks and challenges. So here you need to talk about the major benefits of the case. For example, in your preliminary round task, it's about technological advancements. So you may want to talk about the benefits of technological advancements in the field that you choose in page 4, in your opportunities page. And of course, include the real examples with reference and evaluation. So what are evaluations? Both page and 5 require evaluations, which are just basically evaluating. I mean, you say that it's a major benefit. However, you need to understand too that not all opportunities or risks are one-sided. There's always going to be a limitation to that, and include that evaluation in these pages too. Right. And then on page 6 is recommendations. So here, this is the page that is targeting your creativity too. You need to propose actionable solutions that could be carried out in your case. So think of this with your teammates and put it in page 6. And then page 7, which is the final counted page, is your conclusion. So summarize everything that you have talked about in your case study portfolio, and again, reinforce your stance if it is applicable. And the final page here is uncounted, but it is the appendix. This is also very important, as it will serve as a reference document to all of your citations. Earlier on in the first page all the way to the 7th page, you guys must have had written data that has been taken from a certain website or journal. And this is the place where you would put the links or write the name of the article that you took it from in the appendix. It's also one slide. Okay. Here's a little bit of examples of how a citation would look like. So it's a bit confusing with the 4 pictures, but try to bear with us. On the left-hand side, on the bottom, this is an example of how to refer and cite a journal or a published research paper. So published research papers usually have an author, they're in a journal, and they're written or published in a certain year. So in your text that you want to refer to, you would write it here. Like, for example, they written it in italic. So the explorers were not pushing out into wilderness, blah, 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 blah. And at the end, there's a kurungan there, and they'll just put Reynolds, 1990, and then they put the page number, page 20. And in your appendix, that red arrow appendix citation is where you write the full name of the author, the book, the publishing year, and etc. We won't penalize people for different types of citations. And we know that a lot of like universities have their own citation preferences, but for this competition, any simple references like this is already enough. So you could either write the citation at the end in a bracket, or you could do it as in the bottom right picture there, Able 2001 presents, and then you could say anything that you referenced there. And the next. And then this is an example of the referencing in a website, something that's not from a journal, something that doesn't have a specified author. So for example, here you have a reference to a trend that temperature records show, and then it's from the Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. So you would put the data there and put the Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology in brackets after that data, so you know where it is taken from. And then in your appendix page, there in the red arrow, you would write the title of which body or place you took it from, and also the link to that website that you took it from. So right here, it's like the government or the Bureau of Meteorology. You could take it from other research articles. After this, we're going to have a session on where you can take your researches from. So I think that's it for citations. And yeah, that's it for preliminary round briefings. So I'll pass the floor back to Aisha. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Akil, for that very context presentation. It has really set the stage perfectly for our next session, where we would like to invite Alden Gun, the Deputy Director for EMEU Research Department. Please welcome.
So thank you, Aisha, and hi everyone. First of all, thank you so much for joining us today. And then, yeah, good afternoon. My name is Alden, and today I'm going to share with you like how to conduct meaningful research, as well as like strengthening your case study reports. So especially for this kind of case study competition, and I knew that a lot of you, like some of you, maybe like from high schools, and you just started get in touch with this kind of case study competitions, and maybe some of you have already a lot of experience in participating in this kind of competition. But just bear with me. I will just talk about like some general and also some useful ways that you can use when you are doing some research in order to support your case study report. So, okay, next slide, please. So first of all, there are a lot of misconceptions here. Like for example, like every student, especially like high school students like me, when I was in a high school, the first thing first I think of research is actually just like Google searching some things, and then the first things that pop up, okay, or emerge on my screen, then I will just take it and I will just simply cite it, and I think that that's all. Okay, that's a research. But to be honest, that is not the real way of conducting a very solid and strong research. So first of all, we look at the common misconception box first. So a lot of people think of like, okay, I can just copy information from first few Google results. And some even think of typing keywords only. And now, because of the emergence of artificial intelligence, some just type some prompt and then just ask the AI to generate those sources for them in order to allow them to copy and paste into the PDF or maybe into their Word so that they are able to submit that case study report. But to be honest, those are not a solid way of conducting a research. It is because like, first of all, if you just simply rely on the artificial intelligence, I can't say like all of the time, but most of the times, the data as well as like the information given may not be as inaccurate as you wish, as well as is not that accurate that able to convey the same message that you would like to convey to the judges. And then the second thing is when you are like looking like through AIs or maybe searching through the internet, you need to have fact check. It is because definitely rumors are widely spread, and actually the artificial intelligence, they will just only generate something where a lot of the people are spreading, where a lot of the people are sending, and the algorithms will just send the most common and the most popular answer to you. So is that the real answer sometimes? Not really. So instead of just asking them, why not you yourself delve into depth and then study those particular stuff, or like study the research report that conducted by other universities, or maybe look at or watch at the videos that on the interview one like has been conducted by another institutions, and you yourself can help to summarize all those information as well as the key points that you have obtained from those resources, and at the end of the day you generate your own genuine research report. So for example, some people maybe even ask, plastic pollution is serious. Okay, then what is the next thing? Okay, so those things are not the good things that you should imitate or you should do. Instead, why not we look at the real research box? First, research is finding the reliable evidence to answer questions and support your ideas. So you can straight away go through like a lot of different kind of data websites where you are able to get a lot of information and analysis, such as like DOSM, such as like Bank Negara Malaysia official website, as well as like you can go to like WTO, WHO, and also a lot of UNESCO website as well. So those kind of the websites allows you to have more solid data, and some even provide graph for you as well. So you can use those things to do your analysis. All right, so this is just the most important thing that you need to know, where research is not just searching information, but is search and analyze yourself. And at the end of the day, you summarize the point that you have searched, maybe like through online or maybe through artificial intelligence, and you just put those important things into the case study report. All right, next slide. All right, so before we start searching, right, we need to know what actually we are searching. We can't just straight away put the whole file into the artificial intelligence systems like ChatGPT and so on and say, okay, find all the sources for me and then create a case study report. No, that's not the way that you do. Instead, first of all, you look at the question, you study the question that has been given and the case study report that has been published by the organizer. And then after studying, you try to break the question into smaller parts first. Like for example, the case studies that you all received today is related to like digital transformation, related to like something about the governance and something about economics, right? So you need to break down the question into maybe 3 parts or even more parts. The more that you have broken down, the easier and the better that you are able to solve the questions. So next, you already know, okay, these are the things that I need to ask, like digital transformation. I need to ask about economics. I need to ask about something, how does it affect the governance of certain countries or even in Malaysia? Then you try to generate some sub-questions. For example, you talk about like economics, right? Then you can relate it to what? A lot of things. You can relate it to inflation. You can relate it to how does it affect the standard of living of the people in Malaysia or even in Southeast Asia. And also you can relate it to what? Relate it to how does it cause the problem towards the Malaysians or even other country export and import, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that you should think of when you're doing the research. It's not just superficially looking at the question, type the question into the ChatGPT box and so on. No. And then you need to talk about why is it a concern in Malaysia? Why is it a concern in other countries? What are the impacts that it will give if this problem is not solved? Or what are the impacts that it will give if these things always exist? And then what gaps that need to be addressed, and identify the keywords and who is affected by this particular issue. Then this you can relate it to the stakeholders maybe, and you can relate it to the audience as well. Like what are the age of people are get affected by this particular policy or by this particular problem and so on. And then from there you have a lot of information already, then you do the analysis, you do your own conclusion as well, and then try to think of some policies that already existed, and then you can use those policies as a guidance, as a reference, and you can modify on policy as well. If the policies is already very good and already conducted in other countries, then why not you try to use that particular policies in your own country, and you try to make it to be something that is useful and effective in your own country. All right, next. All right, so next, asking question is also a skill. It's also an art actually. So it's not easy to ask question, to be honest. Like actually there are a lot of the ways of asking questions, and the answers that you're able to obtain depends on the way that you ask your question and depends on the way that you structure your questions. So a lot of people thinking like prompting the same code or similar meanings thing into like artificial intelligence will get the more or less the same results, but actually no. So first of all, you can try to go through like some of the, maybe you can try to ask a different type of questions in different ways, and then you can see that, oh, actually the way of asking the questions in like this way is much better than the other way. So from here you can able to get the most solid results that you are able to put into your case study report. And then instead of just searching online like the website and so on, right, why not you search something, for example, if you are talking about something related to food crisis, right? So if you want to relate it to food crisis research, so you type food crisis research report, that will come out with like website with different type of link, right? And then normally the website is all the things that have been summarized by those university students or by those researchers. Why not you try to type something? Three little letters, PDF. Because when you type PDF, normally the Google search will generate the full report to you, and then from there you are able to obtain the full report and you are able to study, and that is the thing that you are able to put into your own research case study report. So next thing, use the site. Some site actually they are able to help you really well, such as like Google Scholar, or maybe some can use like ResearchGate, and even there are a lot of different kind of like the platforms such as like medium.com, which allows you to study different type of the articles, and Substacks as well. So these are all those like mediums that you are able to use to find those solid as well as like strong research report as well as the article that has been written by those professional people. But the most important thing is, even though you have already like gone through their article, their report and so on, before you put in those like data as well as those and analytical data into your own report, try to think about one thing, which is that things really matter, and is that thing really pertinent or related to your research report? So that's the thing. Don't put something that is contradict to your own thing. All right. And then the most important thing, the third one, use quotation marks around exact phrases to find the precise matches and filter out irrelevant results. Yeah, always try to make sure that you don't put or dump everything into your report. You find the research question, you find the research thing already, then you go through it properly, and then at the end of the day, you think that okay, this is very related, then you just put into your report. All right, next. So all right, so there are a lot of credible resources that you are able to go through, such as like DOSM, Bank Negara Malaysia, World Bank, United Nations, WHO, and then you also can go through via like academic journals, research papers, and some like the consultations companies like McKinsey, as well as like Khazanah Research Institute, an institution that like actively conducting a lot of different type of fields of research. Those are the things that you are able to take in your considerations, and you're able to use them to support your data and also your findings lah. Next. Okay, so you can divide them into like three different phases. First, you try to make a claim where actually you can think of something like, okay, I support this thing, or this problem should be solved in this way. And only after that, you just have a direction already, then you start to do the research. You can't just do the research broadly, just simply mentioning about something digital, something economic, and blah, blah, blah. No, you should have your own idea. Okay, I'm going to solve this problem. So now I'm going to research what are the ways that are able to me to solve the problem. Or maybe I would like to disagree with this particular policy. So what are the ways or what are the things that are able to support support my opinion, support my ideas, support my stance that allows me to disagree with this thing? Then only you go to find something that are able to support and explain your opinion, your ideas, and your stance. And last thing, you connect it by using your PDF file or maybe like Canva, as well as anyways PowerPoint. Depends on the competitions organizers, as well as it depends on the current situation. All right, next. Okay. So evaluate the sources with the CRAAP test. There are a lot of ways to do research, to be honest. So it doesn't necessarily like just only one CRAAP, AAP, or maybe it's not just necessarily like 5W ways of doing those things. No, there are a lot of different formulas. Depends on which formulas that you find out is the best for you, and you are able to utilize it the like I can say utilize it wisely and the best way. All right. So CRAPP is depends on like currency, authority, accuracy, and also purpose. And also one is relevance. So in terms of currency, you talk about is this information up to date and whether it's current or not. If you mention about something in 1900s or even 1800s, maybe the source is true. Yeah, there's a fact, but maybe it's not that credible. Um is not that strong enough to support your data as the things as a whole is keep on changing from time to time, right? And the next thing, relevance. Does it directly answer your research question? Or is just something like around the what is it called, or just around the topic, or just something like not directly related, but it is something quite general. It's very generic. That's the things that you also need to look up to. And third, authority. Who is the author of this or the source, and are they qualified? Yeah, that's the thing. Like a lot of the people they try to do research, but they do not really like focus on who are the authors that write those papers. For example, I can just simply type something like, according to the analysis conducted by one of my friend, saying that there are like 25% of the people in the world are suffering from maybe like or maybe are living in the low income families. But who is my friend? Yeah, that's the problem. So you need to make sure that the authority is some organization or the institution or a group of people or maybe the particular professor who or which is already be I can say like is have a reputation where he or she able to provide a solid and credible sources to you. And next, accuracy. Is the information supported by the evidence and also verifiable? Is that particular report that you have searched through online, is it supported by any interviews, supported by any surveys, supported by any like credible sources that he or she able to find? And last but not least, the purpose. What is the reason for sharing this information? Is it the objective or is it just a bias? It's because I find out that a lot of people actually they will try to do the research based on just their own thingy. So it's like, for example, I think of like, okay, inflation is something bad. So I will just only find the bad sources or bad informations about inflation. And I'm not going to care about the pro side of the inflation. But actually, inflation do brings a lot of positive impacts to our economy as well. If you study economics, then you know that how inflation can help to boost the demand in our country and so on and so forth. So yeah, basically, just make sure that you are focusing on the CRAAP test where you are able to use this as a framework when you are structuring as well as like sketching your research direction. All right, next. So this one is just a very simple and a superficial thing. First, you identify the problems. Next, I investigate the root causes, literary review, consider the stakeholders, examine existing policies, identify gaps, purpose of recommendations, and evaluate your strengths and limitations. Make sure you always consider stakeholders because different case study report different stakeholders. Like the stakeholders are the particular group of people where they are able to get the benefits after you have implemented your policy or you have amended something. So just make sure that the stakeholders that mentioned in the competitions or mentioned in the case study report that published by the BASE initiative is related to the case study report. It's not like BASE initiative mentioned about this group of people, but you mention another group of people, which will be a bit weird in terms of presenting your case study report to us. All right, next. And then, yeah, remember, always review the sources before submitting, and then make sure that all the sources that you have put into your case study report, the research information that you have conducted previously, make sure they're all related to your idea, related to opinion. Do not put something that is very contradict, something that is very different than what you have written along the way. So just make sure that don't make these kind of the careless mistakes. And the most important thing is don't be too biased when you're conducting research. Try to make sure that you find the information from both sides, and then later you can see the weightage, whether this problem is more to like pros or more to like cons. Then at the end of the day, you can just make your own decision whether you are going to support this or not. All right. Next. So yeah, using AI tool properly for research, and it is very useful if you ask them to explain the complex concept in a simple terms. For example, that there's a huge, for example, annual report conducted by any companies or any organization, but you don't really understand those are abbreviation as well as the short forms that used by those companies. Yeah, you can always use the AI to help you to understand those particular terms and so on and so forth. Generating focus research question, yes, probably you can use that, but definitely you need to give some of your ideas first before they are able to generate a very useful and very focused research questions. And suggesting relevant keywords and search terms, summarizing long reports to save time, organizing ideas and outlining arguments. But remember, when you ask the ChatGPT or any like Copilot, Gemini to summarize the long reports in order to save your time, that is a good way, but actually like the ChatGPT and also those kind of artificial intelligence that don't really understand what are the things that you really want to grab or grasp from that particular research report. They don't really know the essence that you really need. So it is much better if you have more time to prepare than you study the whole report by yourself. But if you really in a dire straits, you can't study the whole thing since it's like 400 pages and you still left like maybe 1 hour to submit the whole proposal, then yeah, you can just ask them to summarize. But that is always your last resort, remember. And be cautious, like always verify the AI generated facts. And AI is a strong starting point, but it's not the final authority. You are the person that finalizes everything. So you should be the person to make sure that every single data and the results that you put into your case study report is true, is something that is solid and something that's credible. And check the data, the statistics, and your own claims independently and use the AI to assist thinking and not just to replace your role. All right. Next. And then there will be a 5W research framework. If you are not going to use a CRR AAP framework, then you can consider this as well. You yourself, you ask your own, what are the things that you are going to think about? Like what happened? What did it happen? Who is affected? And how does it affect in terms of society, in terms of economy, in terms of politics? Maybe you can mention as well. But in terms of the governments, how does it affect the government? And even how does it affect the standard of living in the whole country? And what should happen next? And for example, if this policy is conducted, what should happen next? If it is not happen, what is going to be conducted next? These are the things that you need to focus on when you are finding the research report as well as like doing your own case study. Next. And yeah, quality research definitely equals to the quality report. So if you are able to conduct a very good research, then your report more or less will be someone like very top-notch report lah. But however, just to make sure that you use all those sources are credible. Yeah, you don't try to put a lot of jargons inside your report, but at the end of the day, you don't understand what is the jargon is. So maybe you can have a lot of quality research, but at the same time, you understand the whole thing, you learn the thing, and then you try to interpret it by using your own sentence. Then I think that would be much better comparing to just copy the jargon and the very weird terms and you just put into a case study report. All right. Next. Yeah, so I think that's all from me. So yeah, it is not easy to do a research, to be honest. It takes a lot of time. So a lot of people who are doing research actually they are still in the process of learning as well. When we are doing research, we also learn something new, right? In different fields as well as in different type of maybe in different type of fields. So if you have any questions, you can always ask me, and I think I still have time to answer your question. Yeah. Yes. Any
Next,
question?
sorry to intrude, but in your opinion, would it be if we were to conduct a survey on a concentrated group of people or the stakeholders to see their opinion or their stance on the issue or how they usually deal with things, would that be an accurate source or not very valid?
Okay. So if you want to do a research, okay, so first of all, I don't think like doing survey is appropriate in case study competition because case study competition normally they give a certain period of time only, right? So I don't think it would be very, very useful for you to do so, and you don't have time as well. But if you are doing like normal research by your own, like you want to research a particular topic, yes, I think survey is a good thing, but you need to make sure that the data that you have collected is huge enough. Like for example, if you just I survey like 5 people and then you come out with your own data already, is that 5 people able to represent the whole group of people around you? For example, you want to carry out about like the research about the current inflation, the impact of the current inflation towards the people in Malaysia, for example. But you just ask about the opinions from those people around you, like your friends and your teachers and so on. So does that group of people really represent the whole Malaysia group? Not really, right? Because there are like different kind of people. Some people they have like different goods that they need to buy. Some people they want to buy good A, good B, and good C. Some people need to buy good C, good D, and good E. So it's totally different. So whether the survey is important or not, it depends on the amount of the people that you have reached out to and the data that you have been, what is it called? Yeah, the data that you are able to receive. So at the end of the day, after you receive a lot of data, like thousands of people that you have been asked for, been asking for, and so on, then from that particular point, then you can do your own analysis, then you can make your own conclusion based on that thousand of people who have cooperate to you and cooperate with you and give you their opinion and so on. Okay. So yeah, any more question? Yeah.
Uh, Thank you very much for answering earlier, but I do have one more question.
Okay. Yeah, you just proceed.
Thank you. Since the theme of this case study is talking about policies and regulations and whatnot, would it be better to concentrate or focus my research on the local scale, or should I also look internationally?
Okay. Yeah, there are a lot of ways lah. Okay, so if you want to focus on the local skills, it's okay, but maybe trying to take the international skills like as a reference, like for example, for example, like this one is about like digital transformation and so on and so forth, right? So why not you just take like others like advanced countries that have already like conducted this kind of transformation, already conducted this kind of transition, and you look at their impact. If their impact is really good, is strong enough, they're able to support your idea and your opinion, you can take it as a reference and you can just use it in order to support your own ideas and also make it to be localized. Okay. But if you think that you want to generate something that is totally new, where like international people that don't really have, or maybe like other foreigners that don't really have that particular idea, then maybe you can just proceed. And one more thing is, if you want to talk about the methods that you're using, maybe you shouldn't just focus locally, but you can mention that, okay, these particular policies, yes, I can use in local, but at the same time, it is also applicable in other countries, such as blah, 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 blah. Why? Because it can accommodate with their maybe like some particular government's policies, and also maybe their cultures there and so on and so forth. So if you are able to generate the policies that is can be used worldwide, that can be used internationally, and at the same time that is something that is kind of unique with the reference of those other policies that already existed in other countries, then I think that is the best way of conducting the whole research. Yeah, is it okay with that answer?
Thank you.
All right, so yeah, next question.
I have a question about the format. Since to make a quality research, you have to include a lot of content. In that case, wouldn't the slides look really cramped? How would you format it so that it would look neat and actually presentable?
Okay, so yeah, definitely if you like go through a lot of different type of the PDF, different files and so on, you have a lot of the information that you want to put in. Yeah, it will be very cramped. But the point is, yeah, from that particular point, you need to know which data are important, which are not, and at the same time, you need to do your own integration where you need to merge those similar data together and just like throw away those redundant ones. And then one more thing is just need to make sure that the whole structure is, or in order to make sure that the whole structure is organized, you need to know about how does there link between one another. Because, for example, after you reading this particular research paper, then you have some ideas about, okay, what is this paper talk about? And then you read about another paper, you have some ideas as well. So I would like to suggest you that instead of just read those papers and just have a look and maybe just keep proceeding to the next paper, why not after reading every single paper, you write some summary by your own. You talk about what are the ideas that you are able to obtain, what are the knowledge that you are able to gain from that particular research paper that you have read, and then later you just merge. You just look at those summary that you have made previously, and at the end of the day, you combine all of them together to see which one can merge with one another. And then I think that will be a much better and more organized way. But yeah, that's the one of the way lah, but definitely there's a lot of ways in order to make sure that the research is not that cramped. Yeah, don't make the whole case study report too cramped, because if you make it very cramped, not only your ideas are unable to convey like clearly, but at the same time it will definitely affect the marks in terms of like organization and in terms of clarity. All right.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, next question.
Okay, so I also have a question. In your opinion, if we identify a policy from perhaps another country, how should we determine whether or not it would also be effective in Malaysia, rather than simply assuming that it can be adopted here?
Okay. Yeah. All right. So if you want to determine whether it is able and usable in our own country or not. So there are a couple of things that you can look at. So first of all, if you talk about something related to the ways that other countries that they use to tackle pollution, for example, so you can compare a lot of the different data, a lot of the data that you can search through online. First of all, you can compare the pollution rate. For example, if the pollution rate that they had is quite similar to the pollution rate that Malaysia had, then I think that is one of the things that you can just think of, oh, okay, that is one of the method that you can use. And the second thing, you can compare in terms of population, the human population. And the next thing, you can compare in terms of the economy, whether is that particular ways that has been used in that country, is that like I can say that, is that cost saving or is that applicable in Malaysia? Because like different countries have different economics. For example, like some of the countries that are able to conduct like those very expensive methods in order to solve just a small problem, but some countries that are unable to do so, especially those like first world country, they are able to do a lot of different things and then just spend a lot of their own budget in order to do those, because their government revenue is high, right? But you need to definitely compare the government revenue between the countries in order to see whether that particular method can be used in your own country or not. So yeah, you can consider a lot of things: population, income per capita. You can compare the government revenue, and you also can compare even the land size can be also one of your consideration. So yeah, you can just compare anything as long as you think that it's related, then you just compare it, and you can just mention that in your research report, saying that okay, by comparing this to this, there's a huge similarity between both countries in this particular sector. So we can try to use the method that the foreign countries has been using right now, and then we can modify it in order to accommodate our current situation. Yeah, that's the way. All right. Any more question? Yeah, next question.
Yes, once again, sorry to disturb you, but
Yeah, no worries.
in the context of format, yeah, I also like the as well format. If we were to present an argumentative case study and we wanted to talk about our counter arguments or preempted rebuttals towards any opposition cases, how should we title that? Should we just put counter argument plus to put our evaluation, or thank you.
Oh, okay. And actually it depends on different competitions, but normally, we would put those things into the evaluation. We don't really specifically have a part called as counter arguments, because we are not like doing like debates and so on. But maybe we can talk about in the evaluation parts. Then you just mentioned about, okay, this policy will brings a lot of advantages, right? But however, then you can just start with your own thing, like about the disadvantages, the counter argument that you would like to put, as well as the things that you would like to rebut some of the points. But just to make sure, don't put like too much weightage on the counter arguments, because one thing that you need to know that if you put too much weightage on the counter arguments, making your counter the things that you are going to mention in the counter argument part is much more than the things that you mentioned in your policies, like in terms of policy implementation, the pros and the advantages of the policy. Then at the end of the day, what is the purpose of launching as well as implementing or executing that particular policy, right? So yes, you definitely can, you must put some of the counter argument because there is no perfect policy in the world, but trying to make sure that you put it in a wise and in a smart way. So how can I say like it's a smart or wise way? It's just like try to put some, but not too many. And at the same time, it's not the counter argument that straight away against the main idea of your particular policy. So you can mention about something maybe in terms of like time constraint, in terms of like the cost and the budget is too expensive. Okay, that one is still okay. But if you mention about something that is straight away strike and straight away against your main idea, the core idea of your whole policy, then it will be something that is not advisable. All right.
Okay, all right. Due to short time, let's carry on with the next segment of our workshop. First of all, I'd like to say thank you so much, Alden, for such a well-structured and insightful session. We really appreciate you taking the time to share your expertise with us today. So without further ado, let's carry on with our next one, which is the sample case study walkthrough, where I would like to invite Akila to give her speech.
Thank you so much, Aisha. Hello, everyone. I'm Akila. And, well, okay, so we've heard a lot from Alden. Thank you so much, Alden. And I agree with a lot of the points he said. So now we're going to see a sample and evaluate that based on the standards that have been explained to you guys. But first off, let's go over the preliminary round submission guidelines. The case study portfolio format is a 7-page maximum slideshow in landscape orientation, excluding the title page and appendix page. Up to a 1-page appendix page will be allowed. And any additional slides will not be considered or evaluated by the judges. The teams will submit them by email at baseinitiativemy@gmail.com on 3rd August 2026 at 11:59 p.m. Please rename your file as prelim round - group number in bracket group name. Only one submission per team will be considered, hence only one member should make the submission. So let's move on to the judging rubric. We have a few sectors where there's content quality, first off. The questions would be, how would you rate the strength and sophistication of the case? Is the evidence strong? Is it valid? And does it address the core problem with a comprehensive analysis? This is related to how you frame your sentences, your arguments, and your conclusions. Regarding content authenticity and evidence, is the case authentic, original, and free from uncredited AI-generated content? So this is where we will check your sources, hence the importance of the appendix page, where we'll make sure where you actually got those sources and if they're just random facts made up by AI or not. The next sectors are counter-argument and risk analysis. How does the proposal persuasively address, evaluate, and mitigate counter-arguments? Regarding creativity, to what degree are the arguments made with creative angles, contexts, and anecdotes? And presentation and delivery. So since the preliminary round does not have an oral presentation, this will be evaluated on how you structure the points, how you add visuals to make it engaging, and how comprehensive it is to digest in general. So knowing those rubrics, let's now evaluate a sample. Now, we're not saying that this is an example of a winning case study, but this is just something we can evaluate together. So feel free to be interactive with me on this part. So the first page. The title itself is Public Awareness Analysis on Environmental Protection. So you guys can answer in the chat. I want to ask, what do you think the type of case study this is? Is it discursive? Is it argumentative? Is it about breadth or depth? Can I have any volunteers try to answer in the chat? Or you could open your voice chat to answer as well. Public awareness analysis on environmental protection. Okay, that is actually correct. It is actually more to depth because for this specific case study, we had a main article focused on Malaysian society preferences. So from the list of content itself, we'll be reviewing the evidence, which will be surveys. So, okay, so this is, you don't have to, we explained the anatomy of a case study earlier, but you don't have to restrict yourselves to each page has to be this, this, this. You can still fit it anywhere you want, but we just recommend that arrangement earlier. So for example, here the list of content is on the title page where there's introduction, definitions, methodology, stakeholder analysis, evidence analysis, comparative analysis, solutions, and then conclusion. So onto the first page, we have the introduction and the contextual definition. For definition, you can refer to articles or literal definition by dictionary, pun boleh. And it's just to provide context on the discussion of the case study. On the next page, we have stakeholder analysis, which is a much more crucial part. Here, we have chosen the most important stakeholders in this case study, for example, individuals and society, because the articles we found and we researched were more to collecting information on the level of public awareness in our Malaysian society. Further on, we have the national and corporate level, where their motivations and costs regarding environmental sustainability are more obvious. Hence, we can list them out. They have motivators such as national energy sovereignty, preservation of wildlife, improved quality of life, and the costs that hold them back from completely implementing environmental sustainability are the expensive renewable resources, and the sustainable processes that are far more complicated than our conventional ones. And the most obvious stakeholder is the environment. So on the right-hand side, we have survey evidence. So it would actually be a boost if you guys include this kind of data in your case study. Like you can screenshot it exactly from the report or journal, or you can just interpret it in a different format. But we want to take note here that, okay, it's a little blurry. So in the red circles, we have people believing that there is no point doing things for the environment unless everyone does the same. And the majority agree with that statement. Also that, and a majority agrees that nothing can be done by me, family, friends to improve the situation. So the way that I would present this is that this article presents data that shows how Malaysians think about environmental sustainability, which brings us to our next page, which is methodology of analysis. All right. So about the question earlier, where you want to conduct your own survey. Okay. So the purpose of case study competitions is actually to expose you to the kind of research you will be doing in university or for actual research. And basically, unless you are a professor or doctor, your word means nothing. So preferably any conclusions or arguments or statements you want to make, you provide them with evidence supported by someone who published an article or journal. You can come up with your own ideas. You just have to find the right articles or journals to back them up. So here in methodology of analysis is where you explain all your sources that you got your information from. So our main method was article referencing. We list out the articles that are the main source. And then survey analysis. Because, okay, so specifically for this kind of question. It's regarding public awareness, hence why we needed to use surveys, because we wanted to know the opinion of the public. So if it's the current theme of our competition about technology, your source might be different. It doesn't necessarily have to be from surveys. And the third thing is a more creative venture where we correlate it to ethics. We state whether the society adopts a utilitarianism kind of mindset, or are they more altruistic? So that correlation allows is what Alden said about connecting your arguments. It shows that you have a wider knowledge and you are able to analyze on a deeper level this information. So on the next page, we have, it's supposed to be evidence analysis first, Aisha, actually. The next page, sorry. Okay, so we have evidence analysis of the survey that I had shown earlier. So there were questions on how to put in your points without cramping them too much. I would say that this is an example. It's not the best example, but because there's no oral presentation for this preliminary round, there is leniency for you to put more words to explain your points. However, make your main arguments more obvious. Like for example, here I split them regarding behavior and regarding how Malaysians are less willing to sacrifice and give up their convenience. And the points are there. And the paragraphs below are just elaborations. But I also boldened specific points that need to be read, basically. So here we have how Malaysians are influenced by a majority. They have a pessimistic mindset that encourages negligence. So they have a habit of just following the behavior of the majority, even though it is harmful, and are very unlikely to take proactive action unless it is supported by a large group of society. And the other argument made is that pessimistic perspectives cause them to choose what is more convenient for themselves. Hence why Malaysia is a country full of private transport. They prefer that because they prefer family comfort and protecting themselves from the dangers of public transport. Further on, the inconvenience of infrastructure also causes them to make this choice. So here we are analyzing on a deeper level why they answered the survey that way. So having analyzed this, then we can come up with solutions. And here, these ideas, you guys can come up by yourselves, but you need the evidence to show that they are successful. For example, we have from Luxembourg, Copenhagen. I feel like I don't have the time to explain each one, so feel free to screenshot. And the other solutions are from United Kingdom and China. So you can elaborate how it would look like if these solutions were applied in our country. And then at last, we have the conclusion. And after the conclusion, we have our appendix page. So this is an example of what it would look like. It doesn't have to be a screenshot like this. You could just list it out on the slides themselves. But yeah, use the same. So this is a different method of a citation that I learned in university. But for you guys, use the method we taught earlier during the slides before. And so that is the end of the sample case study. Are there any questions that you guys want to ask me regarding any specific parts? All right, if there are no questions, then I'll pass the floor back to Aisha.
Okay, so thank you very much, Akila, for that very thoughtful presentation. So before we end our session for today, let's look again at the competition timeline so that everyone is aware of the submission dates and also timing. So a reminder again, the preliminary round submission will be on the 3rd of August. So make sure everyone sends their slides in by 12 p.m. on that day itself. And then also the results will come out 2 days after, which is on the 7th of August. And and also the final round submission deadline is on the 20th of August, and which is the final day. The final round presentation day will be on the 22nd of um second day 22nd of August. Okay, and on the 27th of July, where it says here the case study task and research report will be sent soon, very soon, for all of you to look through and also skim through, where we hope this can help with you guys wanting to start your case study portfolio. So without further ado, let's all join in for a photo session. For those who are able, let's all on camera and we can just take a quick photo and we can end our workshop for today.
All right, I'll be taking the photo. Dia, can you stop presenting the screen so we can see everyone? Okay. All right, turn on your cameras, guys. All right. Wait, need a couple more. Boleh tak? All right. We'll see Vikram, Edmund. Right. Okay. Okay, I'll be taking the photo now. So 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, and then one more. 3, 2, 1, smile. All right. So thank you guys for the photo session.
Well, that marks the end of our workshop for today. Thank you everyone for taking your time to join and hear all these amazing speakers. We hope everyone learned something new and we hope this is very helpful in helping you guys throughout this competition. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, everyone.